Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Let's see. I'm a little bit dark here. So I'm just going to trust that that's okay. We're seeing the wonderful background. Ooh, there I am. And it will continue to get lighter as we go on in the session. Hi, Bonnie. Welcome. Jason, glad you're here. Angela, welcome to the session. We'll just give a few minutes for people to gather and join in. How is everybody? How is everybody doing? If you are new to me, I'm an American. I'm living in Bali. Lived in Asia a long time. So for me right now, it is early morning. So you can see the beautiful jungle background behind me as the sun is rising here in Bali. So as I said, that will continue to get brighter. So, yes, we are going to be diving into continuing the topic of the book, experiencing the book called There's Nothing Wrong with You by Cheri Huber, Going Beyond Self-Hate. It is a book with Buddhist influence, as well as 12-step and recovery backgrounds. So although that's not explicitly talked about in the book, I believe that the author is in recovery and has helped others in that capacity. And this book is for anyone and everyone. So I would love to hear from you. If you are new to me, new to my live streams, or as a few of you have introduced yourselves, if you're returning, welcome. And I would love to hear, what your experience or non-experience is with this topic, with this book. What has drawn you here? If you are new, is it compelling to think about the idea there's nothing wrong with you? Do you know the book? Are you just randomly here? Are you a follower of me and so you come to my live streams? And as we're continuing to gather here in the session, I'll just share a bit about me. I'm glad you said that, Bonnie, and thank you for your support and connection since my very first live. Wow, amazing. If you do want a copy of this book, There's Nothing Wrong with You, I am happy to share a free PDF copy of it. So if you would like that, please send me a private message. You can reach me in various avenues, and definitely here through Insight Timer message. Also, please follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. Check out my website. All of my replays here are available as replays on my YouTube channel. I have a couple playlists I've created, one for like general live streams, and then I have two specific playlists, one for this topic. So if you like this, If you've missed some sessions, if you're new, don't worry, you've showed up at the perfect time. And also, if you want to check out past live streams, there's a playlist called There's Nothing Wrong With You, Insight Timer Live Stream Replays, and they are in order. And also, if you care to send me a message, I can share the recording we're going to be listening to. So the way this format of this live stream is going to work is we're going to start where we left off before. Last time we did this, which has been a little while now. And we're just going to listen and experience the audiobook as it's read by the author. And then I just stop the recording for discussion when I feel led to. So it's pretty, free flowing. Also, as we are experiencing listening to this book together, the invitation for you is to be mindful, be present, to practice paying your attention to what we're doing here. So the invitation is to not be in distracted listening, which in this day and age is a rare and precious thing for many of us. So although we are connecting through technology, my invitation to you is that you be fully present here and now with what we're up to, and especially when we are experiencing the recording of the book, so that you can be with it, because that best serves you. It's a form of self-love and self-respect, as well as respecting the material, and you're going to get more out of it that way. So it's a wonderful practice in many ways. So welcome, Angela, also in recovery and follows Recovery Dharma. Amazing. So yeah, and if and those of you that know me know I've been in long-term alcohol and drug addiction recovery as well. So my screen is not updating, so yeah, I can't, usually I like to greet people as they come in, as I know so many of you. I'm not able to see that for some reason. And so please say hello if you would like. And yeah, if there's anybody else that wants to give a shout out, if they are in AA, we say a friend of Bill is sort of, a catchphrase for people that are in recovery together. Hi, Rochelle. Welcome. So that's a bit about what we're up to. Also, during the session, I've already started it, but before the sessions, I always set an intention. I always activate Reiki to flow into the session and support it for those who wish to receive it. And if you don't know, I am a spiritual life coach, intuitive, and Reiki Master Teacher. You can check me out everywhere, follow me everywhere, all that good stuff. If you care to give a donation through the app, that's appreciated. Yeah, and you can check out my offerings. I offer powerful one-on-one spiritual life coaching, one-on-one sessions with Reiki and Ancestral Clearing that are really amazing and powerful and impactful. I do one-on-one Oracle Tarot card readings. I also offer as a free gift to the Insight Timer community here my Truth Excavation session. So that's a powerful session in which I take you into a deep state of relaxation and then ask you powerful questions to help you uncover truths within your soul that are ready to be revealed. I'm also offering a group program starting June 1st on money mindset that's going to be super fun and powerful. So if you've struggled with scarcity and lack mindset, never feeling like you have enough money, having old patterns around money that you're ready to break free from, and you're willing to do what's uncomfortable to do that, you can send me a message to be added to the wait list. I'm offering an early bird special until May 1st on this program that starts June 1st. And as a special, super special offering, I am doing a truth excavation session around money. So I have my normal, quote, normal truth excavation, which is more general about truths that your soul is ready to reveal to you. And also now I have this special offering of a money truth excavation session. So it dives deeply into what's underneath, what's subconscious, what do you really think and feel about money and yourself, abundance, wealth, so that those things can come up to the light of day, which awareness is the first step for any sort of change. And then there's an invitation that you can actually change that stuff. So that's a bit about who I am and what I do. If you feel the heart call to reach out and connect with me one-on-one, please do so. Yeah. And Butterfly Rain, congratulations on giving up drinking January 1st. That's amazing. For me, that was the hardest thing I ever did. Still to this day, 25 years later. And my entire life is built around, that decision I made 25 years ago. I quit on February 1st, so 1999. But yeah, I still remember the first 30 days were terrible. I still remember that 25 years later. The only way out is through. So we're going to go ahead and get into this topic a bit deeper now. And so I'd like to invite you to consider this idea. There's nothing wrong with you. So if you think about the opposite of that, there's this thought, this idea, this concept, this belief, this egoic structure that there's something intrinsically wrong with me or you, in thinking about yourself. How many of you can sense into that? Or maybe it's like you saw that this title of the live stream, there's nothing wrong with you, and it's like, ooh, wow, that's interesting to me for some reason. Or if you follow me already and you've been in these live streams about that topic, I would love to hear just your thoughts on that for yourself. Hi, Ginger. Nice to see you. And now I can see other people popping up. Angela, Lady Peacock. Welcome, welcome. So if you're, like I said, it doesn't matter if you've never been here before. You can catch up in my live stream replays. You can get the book. As I said, I can send you the free PDF. I can send you the link to this audiobook, whatever it is for you. The beginning of this book talks about where does this idea that there's something intrinsically wrong with us come from? And it comes from, of course, where everything comes from, childhood programming, where, just as part of our upbringing and becoming and being human in this world, we're taught certain things, and we're taught because of, our caregivers, our parents' own upbringings, and on and on and on, at an intrinsic level that there's something wrong with us, which is not true. And this is where some of the deepest suffering comes from. Hey, Amy. Ooh, awesome, Heather. Yeah, so, if you're a parent, you might see this, in the way of like, wow, the responsibility of being a parent and how I treat my child. And also, it doesn't matter, like, we're all children. We all were children because we're here now. So we get to look at ourselves now, and the invitation is here with this information that first, the awareness. As I said earlier, nothing can happen without awareness. If, like, one of my favorite analogies is, there's a fish, a fish is born in water, it lives its entire life in water, and it dies in water, usually. It doesn't know about water. Because it's totally and completely immersed in it. It doesn't know anything different. It might feel currents, it might feel temperature changes, but until, it's caught on a fishing line or somehow it ends up outside of water, it doesn't really have a true concept of what water is. And then when that occurs, then there's an awareness that wasn't there before. So for us, with, the illuminations of these beliefs and these insights and these ahas and these awakenings around thought patterns, around belief structures, around paradigms, this is the first step. We don't, like, for me, and this is why I bring this book to you, it's been so fucking powerful. There's nothing wrong with you. I did not know. I was swimming in a sea that there was always something wrong with me. I did not know that. It was just so much a part of the ocean in which, my mindset swam. And it wasn't until a powerful experience at a retreat in Thailand in the fall last year, where it was a silent retreat. So I was alone with my thoughts, and woo, that was intense. Because, I'm on a journey, as we all are. I've had awarenesses and awakenings and insights. And so, coming to the place where when I went silent, and there was like, a bunch of people, maybe 50 people or 100 people there, what was deeply illuminated in my face was the judgment, just this deep level of judgment on others and myself that I knew was there, but I hadn't experienced it so deeply and profoundly. And it was deeply disturbing and deeply painful. And I experienced deep suffering, which is good because suffering is grace. And also, the egoic part was very uncomfortable. And it was very illuminating. And somehow in this experience, I remembered this book, There's Nothing Wrong with You. I don't know where the thought came, well, spirit, whatever, of like, because I had read this book years before, but how we pick up spiritual practices and teachings and then we put them down and revisit later. So this was one. It wasn't in my field until it was. And I read that book, for most of the hours of that day. And I'm like, this is it. There's just this intrinsic foundation that the mind goes to over and over again, that there's something wrong with me. The mind is always looking for a way to make myself wrong. It's this conditioned bias. One of my favorite things to think about, and I do this with my life coaching clients when it comes up, and all this comes up for them, is looking at, if you look at a baby, even if you're a parent or not, we've all been around children, we've all been around babies, and especially if you are a mother and or a father, if you look into that being's eyes, there's no sense that there's something wrong with them. There's no judgment there. There's only innocence. There's only wholeness and completeness. A baby cries. It doesn't care it's 3 a.m. It doesn't care who it's waking up. And of course, it doesn't have the thought structure in place to think that way. And still, behind that is this intrinsic nature that there's innocence and there's wholeness and there's worthiness. That is the truth of who we are. Then as we're conditioned into this world, by needing to learn how to behave in society and family and community, that we're then taught there's something wrong with us. But underneath that is our true nature. So Ginger felt this idea, but didn't see how it affected everything. So this is where this idea has come from for me and sharing it with you. And honestly, and we've talked about this before in these live streams. It's like we're all on a path, we're all on a journey. You can't turn this off. If you're here hearing this message now, you're on a path, you're on a journey of awakening, of expanding, of evolving the self and the soul, of realizing the self, which means realizing everything that's not the self. You can't turn this shit off. Like, sorry, not sorry. You can avoid it. You can try to ignore it. You can go into denial, but we're all on this path in this journey, and there's no going back. There's no going back to sleep. Because even when you go back to sleep, there's still that awareness underneath of what you're doing, and you can't unsee it. Hey, Nikki, glad to see you. Ooh, that's a great one, Heather. When Things Fall Apart, Pema Chodron. So I'm saying that to say, like, now for me that I've had this deeper awareness of seeing this pattern of the mind making me wrong constantly, it's actually, with the awareness, at times has come deep suffering because it's so in my face. And yet, that's the gift and the blessing. So what happens is, we have something that comes up. And it looks like it's against us. It's pushing up against what I don't want, what I want. I don't like it. So this idea about, oh my God, I'm in so much self-judgment and judgment of others and making myself wrong all the time. It's too much. I hate it. I don't like it. I don't want it. That's the normal way to be, and that's okay. And also there's an opportunity and an invitation and a challenge. And this is the next step on this path for all of us, if you're resonating with this and here now, is that, actually, this is grace. Adyashanti, a favorite teacher of mine, says, suffering is grace. This is here to help me. It was already there. I wasn't aware of it. So this is the spiritual journey and the awakening. My mind wants to make up, it's about going to the Himalayas and in a cave and doing Vipassana in Thailand and doing retreats in Bali and where they are. And that's the spiritual journey. And it's like, woo, fun and light. And no, the spiritual journey is that suffering and the awareness and the awakening, and then the invitation and the choices to work with ourselves. So when we get into this book, it talks about, first setting the stage of what the problem is. We're conditioned that there's something wrong with us, and then working with that and releasing that. And it's through compassion. It's through mindfulness. It's through reprogramming and choosing our thoughts and choosing new thoughts and bringing loving awareness. So the format of this book, as you hear it or as you read it, there's a lot of narrative, and then sometimes it's an inquiry between, it says guide and student, just so you know, so you don't get confused. So guide is the author, speaking as the teacher, and the student is the questioner and the student. So awesome, Angela. I have heard of Recovery Dharma, and I know there's different types of Buddhism recovery nowadays, which is amazing. So thank you for sharing that resource. So let's go ahead and get into the listening and the experiencing. And as I said, the invitation for you is to be fully present with this teaching. And again, I'm just going to stop it where I feel led to, and we'll discuss and go from there. So, and also that as we're listening, I've already channeled Reiki into this session beforehand. And also as we go deeper into the listening, I'm going to be consciously channeling Reiki to whoever wishes to receive. So if you don't want to, you don't have to say or do anything. You'll have that intention inside that you're open to receive or not. You don't need to do anything else, because that's up to you. So let's dive in. Let me know if you can't hear it or if it's too loud or something.
The worst thing that could happen. Student. Belief in fairness is such a setup for self-hate. If life were fair and things were balanced the way they should be, this wouldn't be happening to me. It's easy to go from there to, I must have done something wrong. It's that old, why do bad things happen to good people? I guess there aren't bad things in good people, just things in people. Guide. And that's frightening, isn't it? Because it means that we have no control. If anything can happen to us, in spite of our best efforts to make things go the way we want, where does that leave egocentricity? One of ego's threats is, if you don't do exactly as I say, something awful is going to happen to you. If you believe this threat, the worst thing that can happen to you has already happened. Student, what is this worst thing? Guide. Believing in inadequacy. Believing that you're not equal to your life. Turning away from your true nature, your heart, from life. It's really quite miraculous in the face of all of our conditioned fear to be willing even to consider sitting still with ourselves. We work and work to uncover the layers of our conditioning, and when we see what we've uncovered, our reaction is, oh no, not that. I don't want to see that. What did we think we were going to see? We must remember that this is the layer of stuff between the one who is seeking and that which is sought. It's what keeps me from me. We've been taught to hate it and fear it so that we'll be too frightened and disgusted to look at it. It knows that if we ever do, if we ever get back to our unconditioned selves, the jig is up. Getting back to who we really are means no more self-hate, no more illusion of separateness, no more egocentricity. That's why it's so hard, and why almost no one ever does it. Egocentricity is very powerful and very clever and very determined because it thinks it is fighting for its life. So it looks worse and worse the deeper we go. That's why it's critical to learn to sit still and believe nothing the voices say to you. That's why it's so crucial to find compassion. If a voice is not speaking compassionately, it has nothing worthwhile to tell you.
Okay, we'll pause there. There's already a whole hour-long discussion in that few minutes. So, hi Kate, welcome. The book is called There's Nothing Wrong With You by Cheri Huber, so you can look at the title and description of this live stream and find out more. You can send me a message. I can share more about that. Lady Peacock, what was wow for you? So interesting that, our discussion up until now, that what was just, I just played, brought in elements of that. So actually that's one of my favorite quotes from this book, what we just heard, which Lady Peacock is that. And I have, in the PDF, I've screenshotted that page with that quote. And actually, let me see if I can pull it up so I can quote it exactly. Well, oh yes. If the voice is not speaking compassionately to you, it has nothing worthwhile to tell you. Everything you need to know will come to you in compassion. So that is one of the nuggets I've taken from this book, is recognizing if there's a voice that's trying to help me or give me constructive feedback or judge me or give me advice in my head, like that voice, I'm noticing, is it coming from love or not? Or is it like, you did that wrong, or, you need to do better. You should have done it this way. So anything like that, after taking in this last bit that we just heard, that has then helped me to be like, that is not a loving voice. The only voice we get to give power to and attention to is the loving voice. If it's not a loving voice, it's coming from egocentricity, as the book calls it, or the book also calls it self-hate. Yeah. Hey, friendly pause. Yeah, we've talked about that self-hate. Like, that's the word the author uses in the book. And I don't know, my ego, whatever, cringes. But it's true. It's really like powerful language. And I'm sure it was chosen very mindfully to use self-hate as the words to describe the egocentricity, the judgment, anything that's not loving. And yeah, Nikki, and this is why, with my experience with the meditation center, I thought that I had done work on myself. I thought that, I don't pay attention to that critical voice. I don't beat myself up in my head. I've evolved to a place where, like, I don't listen if the voice says, you look ugly today. And so there's layers, right? So that the layer, I guess, that shouts, or that would shout like, you're horrible, you're fucked up, you're a mess. If the voice in my head like shouts at me like that, I know not to listen to that one. And so I felt like, I don't have negative self-talk in my head anymore. As this journey has progressed, and then especially when I was in the silent retreat and there was nothing but me in silence, I was like, oh my God, my head is still filled with this. And then of course I made myself wrong for that, which is okay. That it's always going to do that. It's going to latch on to the next thing. It's like a parasite. It's going to go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing because it doesn't want to die, because the ego is the false self. The ego will die when the body dies. The soul, the true essence of who we are, that innocence, that peace, that infinite, energy that we are, can never die. And yet the ego wants to preserve itself. So that's all it's trying to do. So the first thing is, again, the awareness of these thoughts. And then the invitation is to not make yourself wrong for having the thoughts. And then the invitation is to, is this a loving, compassionate voice? Or is this coming from self-hate, ego, fear? And then the passage talked about, too, like the worst thing that could happen. Amy, thank you for sharing. So I'm also trained in RTT, Rapid Transformational Therapy. It's a hypnotherapy process. And basically it's about reprogramming limiting beliefs that all come from childhood. And Marissa Peer is the founder of that. And she says there's 4 limiting beliefs, 4 or 5 main ones, and only those. Everything else comes from that. One of those is, I am not lovable. So it makes sense that one would be there. And it's a process and a journey of waking up in every moment. The other book study we're studying here in my live streams is the book Conversations with God, which many of you have been in, and would highly recommend that. In addition to this, like, these two together are great. But it talks about, like, being on this spiritual journey and spiritual path. Really, if you're serious about it, what it requires of you, and other teachers say this too. I mean, everyone's saying the same thing in different language. That it requires a moment by moment awareness and then choice to change the thoughts in every moment. So when every single time, to the best of your ability, when that thought, I'm unlovable, or Butterfly Rain says you'll always be alone, you'll never find someone, whatever those thoughts are, every time they come up, every single second. Michael Singer, my favorite teacher, he's like, every single moment. There's never a moment. The invitation is to never lose your consciousness for a second. It's not easy. It's simple. It's not easy. And this is the work of what we're up to here in our soul's evolutionary path. And then Conversations with God says that we then, with that awareness in every moment, then we get to create who we choose to be in response to that. So it's creating ourselves in every moment. Yes, Friendly Pause, the meaning-making machine. Thank you for that. Our minds are meaning-making machines. It's making up meanings all the damn time. What meaning are you going to choose to put onto your experience? What meaning are you going to choose to put onto the situations unfolding around you? That's your choice. Even if it doesn't feel like it is, it is. Yes, that's so true, Nikki. Yeah, and that's what I said earlier. Like, we're all here hearing this. And yeah. So that's a great question, Butterfly Rain. So when the bad thoughts come, bad is a judgment. So even releasing that, like, I'm so glad you said that. And we talk about our language here a lot in the live streams, and there's a perfect example. It's not even about good, bad, right, and wrong. It's about removing the whole paradigm of value judgments. So it's a noticing first. So great. If you have that awareness, awesome. Then, okay, it's a less than loving thought. Okay, then you get to, there's the invitation to release that there's something wrong with having that thought, or because that's what intrinsically happens. Oh, well, I'm on this path, and I've thought, like, this is what happened to me. I thought I'd done all this work, and oh, here it is again. Here it is again. Here's the same old pattern, the same old shit, the same old thoughts. It's easy to get into that. So the invitation is in the noticing to becoming fully present and being like, oh, there's that pattern again. I'm the witness and the observer of that. I'm not going to get wrapped up in the drama of it. I'm going to do my best to stay in my awareness, my present moment consciousness, which is where meditation and mindfulness comes in. You witness and observe, oh, there's that pattern again. It's not bad and wrong. It just is. It's okay. Isn't it interesting? That's one of my favorite catchphrases. Isn't it interesting? Okay, there's that thought and that story. I have a clearing practice that I can share with anybody. Send me a private message and I can send it to you. But it's called a clearing exercise, and it helps clear away all the stuff that's in the way of these, or that's like all the energy that's here. And really it's about releasing the context of good, bad, right, and wrong, which goes back into there's nothing wrong with you. Now, the thing is, it's easier before a big momentum is built. It's always possible, and it's easier before a bunch of energy is built up of like, you're in a shame spiral, or everything, I feel like everything's falling apart. I know somebody said something, Michelle feels like going crazy. I mean, I can feel that way of just like, it's too many thoughts, it's too much, I have too much awareness. It's about, okay, doing our best in every moment to not get wrapped up in that. It's still possible, but then that's when, chemicals in the body are released, triggers, programs, energies. We can do somatics to work with that stuff. Because if we let this, like, whatever, self-hate energy really take over, it can take over. And not to say you aren't ever at choice. You are always at choice. And it's just easier if you catch it in those earliest, that first thought. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, totally, Angela. Everything is a messenger. Everyone and everything is a messenger. It's here to help us. So this is one of the biggest shifts that will benefit you with all of, like, there's nothing wrong with you. In thinking about, okay, something happens, I react, I judge myself that I'm bad and wrong and not good enough for it, whatever. The invitation then is, oh, this is all here to help me. This is the universe, God, source, higher power, life, bringing me things to help me get what I want. This is not here to punish me or drag me down or make me feel worse. This is here to heal, help me to awaken. This is here to help me. Wow. That's a huge shift. So, we're going to continue listening. There's lots of good stuff here, and appreciate hearing everyone's thoughts. So, let's go.
Everything you need to know will come to you in compassion. Do not confuse nice and polite with compassionate. A compassionate person may be what we call nice and polite, but compassion does not try to be nice and polite. Nice and polite comes from conditioning. Compassion comes from the heart and our shared connectedness. Fake it till you make it. Student. Much of my reluctance to do certain aspects of the work of ending self-hate comes from self-hate itself. For example, if I realize I'm saying bad things to myself, it seems phony to make myself be compassionate by saying something good to myself instead. But I'm finding that just making the effort is often helpful. Recently, I've been feeling crabby and not grateful, and just the mechanical act of writing thank you was enough to help me find the sense of gratitude. I could say that was phony and stupid, but it worked. Guide. The voice saying it's phony is terrified that you'll find out how sincere you are. Student. It's okay to just pretend you're like yourself, to go through the motions of embracing yourself, even if it feels false or stupid. St. Teresa of Avila taught to go to the experience of gratitude within, and I've always assumed she meant fake it if it wasn't there. I often act as if, and as soon as I do, I feel a real change. Guide, because it's not phony. You're acting the way you really are, according to your true nature, and that gets beneath the self-hate. Stay with the breath. Student, I was at a conference where we sat in meditation for an hour each morning. It was mentioned that if you hadn't sat before, you might have various physical sensations, even feel sick at your stomach. I'd never meditated before, but I wanted to do everything right, so I sat every morning. I was pregnant at the time, and through every sitting, I thought I was going to throw up. But since I knew to expect that kind of sensation, I kept sitting. I made up my mind to stick it out, even if I did throw up, or if I passed out. What I learned was that I was able to get through it by staying with every single breath. The experience showed me that the internal voices weren't right. They were saying, you can't do this, you're going to be sick. But it wasn't true. Even the physical cues I was getting. That was an extremely valuable experience. Later, when I was in labor, it was true again. As long as I stayed with every breath, I was all right. And that showed me where freedom is. Guide. Yes. If you went to another conference and had a friend with you, say, and she was sitting those hours each day, even though she never sat before, you might say to her, I hope you know what a great thing it is you're doing. It's really hard, and you're doing it. That's the kind of thing we'll say naturally to someone we really care about. But we don't say it to ourselves. But we could. We could even go beyond telling ourselves that it's okay to have our thoughts and feelings and risk something really compassionate like, that was really good. I'm glad you did that. You're a good person. When I make those recommendations, people often say they're afraid that if they're that kind to themselves, they will become egocentric and self-indulgent. But we already are egocentric and self-indulgent. Being kind to ourselves is the way not to be egocentric and self-indulgent.
All right. Another juicy passage of truth bombs. So what stuck out for y'all in that passage? And it was totally been in line with what we've been discussing in this live stream. I love that, Amy. This is here to help me has really helped you the most. Amazing. Ginger, that's also helped you. Yes. Ginger, butterfly rain, being kind to ourselves. We think that that's being self-indulgent. And that's that critical parent voice. You don't want to don't spoil the child. Actually it reminds me when I was 18 years old, I was in 2 drug rehabs. And for a year total. And after I got out, because the family's involved, of course, they call it a family disease. My mom wrote me a letter, and I'm the oldest of 3 girls. She wrote me this letter, and she said, it was something about, she was explaining how she treated me. She said, when I was born, my father was so worried about spoiling me. So he's like, let's not spoil Natalie. So my mom said, as a result of that, she held back in showering me with the love that she felt inside out of fear that I would become spoiled. And then she said, with my second sister, she let go of that somewhat. And then by the time my last sister came along, she totally abandoned that and just didn't worry about spoiling her and gave her all the love. So I find that interesting in thinking about the voice that would say, oh, well, we can't be kind to ourselves. We can't let ourselves off the hook. We can't, because that's self-indulgent. And actually, it's the opposite. So thank you for that. Amazing, Amy. Yeah, so I love that piece that it talked about with the breath and the sitting in meditation. And that goes back to what I just said earlier about, okay, how committed are you to waking up to this journey of self-realization and awakening? And if you want to say enlightenment, although I don't like to say that word so much because there's so much attached to that. As Michael Singer said, you can only do that. It's a moment by moment conscious choice in every moment, watching the thoughts, and not buying into them and not making yourself wrong when you notice them, and being the witness and the observer and relaxing and releasing behind it, not getting interested and caught up in the mind. The mind is always going to be thinking. The heart is always going to be beating. The lungs are always going to be breathing. The mind is always going to be thinking. So, the key is to not get so interested in what it's saying. And when we do, to work with ourselves in every moment. Awesome, Michelle. Heather can relate to parents worried about spoiling you. Hi, Britt. Glad to see you. Great. So, and this is the benefits of meditation and mindfulness practice, is we can only experience life right now. Right now. Now. Anything outside of this exact present moment experience can only be experienced as a thought about the thing. We can only experience the past as a thought. We can only experience the future as a thought. So this is why this process of waking up is a moment by moment unfolding in choice. And why, everybody's not doing it. It's fucking hard. It just is. It's very simple. It's not easy. Have you suffered enough? how has it worked for you so far to work with yourself and be with these thoughts and the conditioning and the relationship with yourself and your thinking? Have you been able to shame your way or self-hate your way into loving yourself or beating yourself up? Has that worked to get you to learn to love and accept yourself and realize there's nothing wrong with you? No. If it worked, we would all be enlightened. So the book talks about in earlier passages, as I said earlier, if the voice is not compassionate, it's self-hate. It's the ego. So what I envision with this whole system, it's a system. This is a whole system that it's like a Jenga thing, and we're taking these pieces out that this tower, this system is constructed of. And it looks like, I've got to work on myself. I've got to, be fixed. I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. And from that motivation, then we do things. But even from that is still within the system. So we've got to come totally out of this paradigm. And the way to do that is remembering any voice that is not loving in our minds about whatever it is that we're doing or not doing is still the ego and self-hate. And if that simplest thing there, if you take that and you start noticing moving forward, is this a loving voice or not? Oh, it's not loving. Okay. Then it's part of the system, the something wrong with me system. And if there's overwhelm, if there's energies, I'm coming up against suffering. I mean, I always am. As I think it's about having the awareness that it's there. I wasn't aware before, but as we awaken, we see things more and more clearly. And what happens is we have these thoughts, and then there's emotions and energies and sensations with them. And Michael Singer, says these are the samskaras, the stuff we've pushed down from the past. We didn't want to feel it. We didn't like it. We didn't want it. We had internal hands where we tried to push it away or push it down to resist it, but that only stored it inside. So when life happens, when thoughts happen, this stuck energy, this resistant energy about whatever the topic is, gets activated, and it's painful and it hurts and it feels like it's suffering. So this is actually the grace. This is actually the universe giving you what you want, trying to help you get what you want, which, we all want peace and freedom and joy and happiness and lightness. So we've got to clear and work with whatever is in the way of that. So there's this Shakti flow, our bliss nature, our true nature, that's being blocked, and that's why it's painful. So we must, with our present moment awareness, being totally present with the thoughts, coming out of the thoughts, coming into the body, coming into the heart. There's an orchestra in here of sensation. That we be with the sensations here in the body. with loving awareness, with loving compassion, moment by moment by moment, just like that example of in the book about the person meditating. Every breath they felt nauseous, but if they were with every breath, they were able to make it through the meditation. And then when they gave birth, they noticed the same thing. Every breath, staying with that deep presence, they made it through without suffering. So we get to do that with these energies here. Hi, Tony. Hi, T. I'm actually going to tell a story before we close. Hi, Mishi. Donna. Which is exactly what I'm talking about here. Because it's about like, how do we work with ourselves when this stuff comes up? And the more we are on this path, the more we wake up to this stuff is always coming up. And also it's all here to help us and conspiring to give us what we want, which is peace, freedom, and joy, ultimately. So I was recently on a trip. Y'all know I went to Sri Lanka, and I travel around, and you know, I'm in Asia. The driving here is driving in Asia, depending on where, what country, what city you're in. So I was in a car, and I've got samskaras and I've got energy around driving because of living in Asia for 10 years. Yes, and I know some of you have heard this story. I'm so glad to hear that, Michelle. Thank you for sharing. So I was in this experience of being in a car for hours, and my mind had the perception in the story that this is crazy fucking driving, like, and I was powerless, you know. So I noticed as the drive continued, as the energy built, as each time there was crazy passing going on, and the more the energies got activated, I'll just say it that way, the resistance grew. Oh Lord, the resistance. I was becoming in hell, because this experience was unfolding, life was happening. I was in total resistance to it because I was scared I was going to die, basically. Or worse than dying, to have something else horrible happen. So that's where my mind and my energy was. And because I'm on this journey and on this path, I also had other thoughts, which is great. And this is what I was saying earlier about the awareness. How many people would just be like, oh my God, I wish they would stop, or blah, 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 and just freaking out, or maybe even yelling or trying to stop the experience and the driver. And that's all they would be. They would just be the reaction. So that's totally unconscious living. And it's not a judgment, it's just part of the path. So I'm not there. I have awareness. So first, you know, there might have been some reaction, but I was like, as it was building, as the hours and the minutes were going, and there was no change in the experience, you know, my nervous system and my resilience was waning. And I wasn't present enough to work with myself to kind of work with it as it kept arising. You know, I just, whatever, I was very human, and then I just was like collapsed into powerlessness. Yes, Matt, and we are always powerless in some degree. So yeah, so then I was in this state. I was in a shitty state of total suffering, just total and complete suffering. and I realized I had two options. Well, I had a couple options. Number one, I could make a request to the driver and ask them to slow down and change their driving. I did not want to do that because I wanted to work with myself instead of trying to change the outside world. So that was one option. So one option would be to say something and hopefully they would listen. Maybe, maybe not. The other option could be, I am disembarking from this ride and I'm going to find another way. And that could be a totally viable option. Again, nothing's good or bad. But I didn't want to choose that. I just didn't want, because, that would be a pain in the ass, and I didn't want to be like, okay, I'm going to find another way and you go ahead. Like, yes, that's an option and I chose not to take it. Yes, it would be an option to say something and I chose not to take it. I chose the third option, which was to work with myself, which is the deepest and most powerful work we can do. Now, as I said earlier, it's easier to work with ourselves before we're like totally in survival, stress, trauma mode, and whatever. That's not what happened. We ended up stopping for a minute. I said, I want to move into the back seat. I went into the back and I was just closing my eyes. I was crying. My body was emitting energies, was wanting to emote with tears. It's all neutral. And I allowed myself to be with those emotions. And I saw the options that were available as I described. And I thought, this is it, Natalie. This moment right here, this situation is everything I think about and talk about here and talk about with coaching clients and talk about to my own coach. This is it. This is the moment where I get to, how committed am I to this spiritual journey and to really awakening? And so the invitation I saw in accordance with Michael Singer and his practices, which are super simple and also so powerful, was, and Eckhart Tolle talks about this stuff too, so many teachers, it's like, come deeply into the present moment, as deep as I can. Michael Singer says, come out of the mind, come out of the thoughts, come out of the stories. What is the mind thinking? He says, it's none of your business. I remember that. It's none of my business what my mind is thinking right now. It's going to think. And what it's going to think right now is not going to be loving. I was in a state of survival and reaction in certain energies. So my mind wanted to just spin and spin, and I got to consciously pull my attention with my commitment to presence in that moment out of being lost in stories and thoughts about what was happening around me. So over and over again, in every second, I just was like reorienting to presence, out of the mind and into the heart. Because in the heart and in the body was so much energy, so much constriction, contraction, pain, suffering, shattered feeling, anxiety, stress, rapid heartbeat. So what I did was work with myself, because if you stay in the mind, you're going to spin in the mind and you're never going to get to the deeper place where the thoughts are coming from, which is this energy. And so I had to come into and be committed to full presence as if I was giving birth. Like, that's the level of presence that that moment required of me. Not just like, oh, I'm looking out the window, or oh no, I'm lost in thought again. No. I got to commit, like as if my life depended on it, because it does, in a sense. I mean, it does. To every breath, relaxing and releasing. There's sensations here. I'm not even naming them as emotions, because that has judgment and energy on it. There's sensations in the body. Michael Singer says, we'll ask, how long is it going to take to move this energy? It's none of your business. These are the mysteries of how all this has unfolded. It's not my business how long it takes for this to clear, if it clears at all. My only business is bringing the light and the presence of my attention and energy to this experience without getting lost in the mind, in the stories, and fully opening to the energies that are here, relaxing behind them, allowing space. And so I did that to the best of I surrendered. In every single second, surrender, total surrender to being still in the car on the drive. These energies coming out of the thoughts and stories, and over surrendering, using my attention and my presence to burn through the conditioning. And those tears of anxiety and trauma and stress, and then stories about the driver and what they're doing and not doing, and resentment and anger began to melt with the light of my conscious presence and attention. And those tears of suffering actually turned to tears of bliss and joy. And I'm not kidding you. And I'm not making something up. This is what happened. It was so intense to be present with those energies. Those energies were so big and powerful. But I had an intention and a commitment bigger than that, to be with myself in that moment to moment conscious presence and attention and awareness. And that burned through that samskaric energy. And as Singer says, what's underneath is a river of Shakti, a river of joy. And our resistance in the past and all those experiences pushes that down. And then I released, a blockage that day. And then I was crying in bliss. And and then I didn't care about the driving. And I actually became grateful for the driver and the experience, because then I remembered this is happening for me. As we said earlier, this was not happening to me and I want it to stop. This is conspiring for me to give me what I want. And then I became grateful, and I had this other awareness or perception. This other perception came of this sense that God, source, universe, life is bringing me every single experience, conspiring to help me, to give me what I want, which is to wake up and end the suffering of illusion. And I was able to see that, and it was a very powerful spiritual experience, and it was an opportunity. Now, have I reverted to old patterns since? Yes, I'm human. And also, you can never take that away from me, that experience. And we all have that. Now, Michael Singer talks about starting with low-hanging fruit. That experience I told you about had a lot of energy. It was not simple. It was simple. It wasn't easy. He says, don't start with, the family trauma. Like, start with, it's raining and I wish it was sunny. And you have an internal reaction and you have thoughts and you don't want it that way. Start with that. Do what I just said around the thought that, oh, it's raining and I wanted to go outside right now. Start relaxing and releasing there. And life will bring you the perfect experiences for you at the perfect time. We don't need to go searching. It will come. That car experience came. So that story wanted to come through. I hope it was helpful. We'll go ahead and end now. If you want a free PDF copy of the book, There's Nothing Wrong With You, send me a private message here in Insight Timer, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, website, all those good things. You can also send me, if you want, I'll send that audio link. Send me a message. I can send you the link to what we were listening to. Follow me here, everywhere, YouTube, website. Give a donation if you'd like. It's helped support me in what I'm up to here in this beautiful experience. Thank you. Thank you, Lady Peacock. Yeah, Ginger. It's an up-leveling. Think about yourself. Whoever, anyone. Think for me, I'll think of myself 20 years ago. Oh my gosh, surrender gym. I love it. We're living in a surrender gym. Amy, Jason, Butterfly Rain, thank you. And again, don't forget to, explore more about my offerings if that calls to you. If you want to connect deeper, as I said too, I'm offering as a gift to the community here my truth excavation one-on-one session. I also have it as a recording if you sign up for my email newsletter on my website. And I'm also offering a fun spin on the truth excavation to celebrate my money mindset program starting June 1st to help you create more abundance and wealth, to do a money and wealth truth excavation. So if any of that's interesting, reach out. Y'all know what to do, where I am. This was great. Thank you. I'm glad, Michelle, Mary Lou, you're welcome. And I want to share around the nothing wrong with you piece. I'm noticing there's a thought that says, you barely listened to any of the audiobook today. This isn't right. You're doing it wrong. You should have listened to longer passages in the book and you talk too much. So I say that to say, isn't that interesting? Natalie in the past would have just felt like a feeling of dis-ease, wouldn't have been conscious or would have been barely conscious of that thought stream. But now, because of whatever, where I'm at on the path, I can see it. I saw it bubbling up as we were closing. And it came into my consciousness. And I can notice there's that pattern that the mind is trying to make me wrong again. And there's nothing wrong with that pattern. And it's okay. Oh, isn't it interesting? And even me sharing it, that could be super scary for the ego. And I did it anyway to give you an example of how this is there. And so then here it is. Here's the choice. Am I going to believe the story that I didn't do it good enough, or people aren't going to like that I didn't play the recording long enough? Or am I going to believe and trust it was perfect? This is happening exactly as it's supposed to. I'm going to trust the process and, come from love. And it's okay. That part, the wounded child thinks, it did something wrong. It's okay. It's okay that thought was there. Even you can say thank you for sharing. And also, it was perfect. And that's it. So, I will see you all for Saturday Night Live. Yes, that's the next live session here. Please join me there. If you follow me, you can see where that is. Congratulations to Bonnie, who won the free gifted giveaway session with me for my 3 years on Insight Timer anniversary. So looking forward to connecting with them. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, Lady Peacock. Bonnie, yes. So, have a good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And this replay will be up within 48 hours on my YouTube channel, if not much sooner. So if you want to experience it or replay any of the other live streams on this topic or any topic, check over there. Namaste.